Hello everyone! Today I will be reading the famous story of all time, The Little Red Riding Hood. On her way to visit her granny, she meets a furry stranger. And when she gets to her granny's house, she wonders why her granny looks so different. So come on, let's find out! Once upon a time, a little girl wanted to visit her granny in the forest. She wrapped herself in the new red cloak Granny had sewn for her, then picked up her basket. "Carry that carefully, Little Red Riding Hood," said her mother. "It's full of cakes and bottles of lemonade. Don't stop to play in the woods, and don't eat the cakes. Just go straight to Granny's cottage." Little Red Riding Hood walked into the forest. Deep in the shadows of the trees, she felt like the only person there. She clutched the basket and walked in the middle of the path. Then she heard a voice. "Hello, little girl." She smiled. She wasn't alone at all. She turned round and saw a handsome wolf leaning against a tree. The wolf smiled, showing his long white teeth. "Where are you off to, my dear?" he asked. "I'm taking cakes to my granny. Would you like a bite?" She showed him the cakes in the basket. "No, thank you. I don't eat cake," he smiled again. "Do you have far to go? Where is your granny's house?" "She lives in the middle of the forest, in a clearing with a river running behind the cottage. And she has roses and a rock garden and apple trees. And she never bothers to lock her." Little Red Riding Hood stopped. She shouldn't tell secrets to a stranger. The wolf peered into the basket. "Oh dear, you're only taking cakes and lemonade. Once she's finished those, she'll have nothing to remind her of your visit. Could you take something else? Something which will last a few days?" He frowned and looked around. Little Red Riding Hood looked around. "I could take flowers," she said. "What a clever girl! You can pick flowers on the way. Now, I have to go and prepare my lunch, so farewell, and be careful in the forest." Little Red Riding Hood waved at the wolf as he looked off through the trees. Then she walked slowly along the winding path, picking a big bunch of flowers. The wolf ran through the forest towards the small cottage. He didn't stop to pick any flowers at all, so he got to Granny's cottage before Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf knocked at the door. A creaky voice called, "Who's that?" "It's your sweet little granddaughter," sang the wolf in a high voice. "I brought you some cakes. Can I come in? Come in, my dear. The door's open as usual." The wolf opened the door very quietly and stepped inside. The wolf bounded up to the bed, opened his mouth wide, and swallowed Granny in one big gulp. She vanished right into his belly, slippers and glasses and all. The wolf burped and rubbed his belly. Then he wriggled into Granny's spare night-eye and spare nightcap and snuggled down into bed. Little Red Riding Hood stepped through the open door. "Hello, Granny!" She put the flowers in a vase, put the cakes on a plate, then opened the curtains. When she saw Granny in the sunlight, she said, "Granny, what big hands you have!" "All the better to hug you with," the wolf whispered. She opened the window. When she saw a breeze ruffle Granny's hairy ears, she said, "Granny, what big ears you have!" "All the better to hear you with," the wolf smiled. She lit the fire. When she saw Granny's face in the firelight, she said, "Granny, what big eyes you have!" "All the better to see you with," the wolf chuckled. Little Red Riding Hood carried the cakes over to the bed. When Granny grinned, she said, "Granny, what big teeth you have? All the better to eat you with. The wolf opened his mouth wide and swallowed Little Red Riding Hood in one big gulp. She vanished right into his belly, cloak and all. The wolf burped, rubbed his belly, and lay back down. The wolf was full of Granny and full of Little Girl, and the bed was warm and soft. Soon he began to snore. The hunter tracking animals in the forest heard the snores. That sounds like a wolf, he thought. He followed the sound to Granny's cottage, looked through the window, and saw the wolf with his bulging belly snoring in the bed. I wonder what that wolf has eaten today, thought the hunter. His belly looks enormous. The hunter tiptoed into the cottage and used his knife to cut the wolf's belly wide open. Out came Little Red Riding Hood, coughing and spluttering. Out came Granny, sneezing and sniffling. The wolf was still snoring. Little Red Riding Hood thanked the hunter. Let's make sure that wolf never eats anyone else. She ran out to the garden and dug up 7 heavy stones, which she pushed into the wolf's empty belly. She stitched the wolf with some thread she found in Granny's work basket. Then the hunter, Little Red Riding Hood, and Granny hid behind the curtains. The wolf woke up. He stretched and burped and scratched. Then he grabbed a bottle of lemonade and gulped it down. I'm still thirsty. That Granny must have been too salty. He grabbed the other bottle and gulped it down. I'm still thirsty. That little girl must have been too sweet. So, the wolf went outside to get a drink from the river. When he bent down, the stones in his belly tipped him right into the water. And he was too heavy to get back out. That was the end of the wolf. The hunter returned to the forest with a pocket full of cakes. Granny locked her door when she went to bed, and Little Red Riding Hood never turned round to talk to strangers again. The moral of Little Red Riding Hood is that you must never trust strangers. Even a very friendly stranger may have very bad intentions. Thanks for watching me read Little Red Riding Hood.